Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal, religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for bringing all that you are with you this morning, because all is welcome. Your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome and appreciated today. So this is so, as always, for those who hear me say this frequently each Sunday, as well as those of you who might be joining us for the first time today. You're equally as welcome and appreciated. And thanks to those who've been joining us from around the country. We're also very glad to have you with us. So welcome. And I also like to start by welcoming those who are in the room with us. It's a very small crew, but an important crew, and I really appreciate having them here, and I think it is good for you to be able to know who's in the room with us, too, give you a little bit more of a sense of a presence about what's going on here. So, of course, you got to hear the talent of Todd Milne, who started us off with his music this morning. Thank you, Todd. And Todd is also running our audio-visual, too, so thank you so much. Sonny Cook is working our slideshow today. Sonny, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Yep, and Lisa Conger is our lay leader today. Always great to have our resident poet with us on Sundays. Thank you. And Michelina Tyree is on the piano, and of course, it wouldn't be complete if Deb Jackman wasn't here to help lead us in music. So, Deb, thank you for being here as well. All right, well, I hope that we will take a few moments here this morning at the start of our service, as usually, by finding creative ways to greet one another. I know we've been doing that electronically with our text and with emails and with quick phone calls, so why don't you take a few moments now to greet somebody that you're thinking of this morning.
When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. Bing Crosby.
Thank you so much, Deb. A great way to get us started today. And I have to say, I've been doing that practice now for a very short time, where I actually, when I go to bed, I try to name 3 things I'm grateful for that happened to me during the day. And I usually get past 1 or 2 before I conk out. So, very effective anesthesia. So, we are going to move ahead now with our chalice lighting, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Matter a lot. Perspective and viewpoint matter a lot. For instance, if one changes the phrase, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, to saving 2 birds with 1 hand, the tone and meaning turns upside down and becomes generative, not destructive. And being flexible and adaptable allows one to understand a broader perspective. In this poetic nested meditation, Kevin Anderson looks at the Hindu parable of the elephant with a unique perspective. Scientists have the truth. Scientists have the truth by the tail. Theologians have it by the trunk. Scientists have the truth by the tail. Theologians have it by the trunk. Philosophers by the head. And poets by the ears. Scientists have the truth by the tail, theologians have it by the trunk, philosophers by the head, and poets by the ears, but no one has the eyes. Scientists have the truth by the tail, theologians have it by the trunk, philosophers by the head, and poets by the ears, but no one has eyes to see the whole elephant.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. I did not receive any specific requests, so let's move right into a moment of silence to contemplate those that you are most thinking of this morning. If you're with some folks this morning, you'd be welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. We do have a special collection this month, a reminder that we're collecting on behalf of the Odyssey Youth Movement, an organization that promotes equity, and I hope equality too, among LGBTQ plus youth in the Inland Northwest through youth-driven programs and community education. And they've been working hard throughout COVID-19 to continue to carry out their mission and their programs, which they offer frequently throughout the week, as well as delivering necessities to some of the youth in our community with staff and volunteers. So thanks again for contributing to this, if you are able to, and for your kindness and generosity. As always, you can send your contribution in the form of a check to our church here. Just write in the memo line what it's for, or if you want to go online and go to our donations tab and do so there where it says special collections, that would be wonderful too. Again, thank you for helping to express our congregation's support and compassion for our entire community each month in this way, but especially for the Odyssey Youth I already forgot, movement. Yeah, the Odyssey Youth Movement at this time. Thank you. All right. It is time for our story for all ages. So gather around. Let me see who might be with us this morning. Oh, my goodness, he's so big, it's hard. It takes a little bit of time to get him up here, but it's my old pal, Goofy. Goofy, how are you doing?
Well, I just got here in the nick of time.
Well, that's good. No, that's bad. It's bad? How come?
Because I got a flat tire on the way here this morning.
Oh, my gosh, that is bad. No, that's good.
How's that? Because a beautiful girl pulled over and offered to give me a ride.
Well, that's good.
No, that's bad.
It is?
Yeah, because her boyfriend was driving.
Oh, I see. Well, that is bad.
No, that's good.
Well, how come that's good?
Because he was driving right past the church.
Oh, well, that is good.
No, that's bad.
Well, why is it bad?
Well, they were riding a motorcycle.
Oh, well, I guess there wasn't room for three. That is bad.
No, that's good.
Well, how come?
Because then a police officer came and called a tow truck.
Oh, well, that is good.
No, that's bad.
Well, why is it bad?
Because he gave me a ticket for a broken tail light and had my car towed away.
Oh, my gosh, that's terrible.
No, that's good.
Well, how is it good to get your car towed away?
Because the police officer offered to give me a ride.
Oh, well, that's good.
No, that's bad.
How's that?
Because he drove me to jail.
Jail, that does sound bad.
No, that's good.
Well, how is it good to go to jail?
Because I had just enough money to pay my ticket and catch a taxi to get here just in time.
And that's good, right?
Well, of course it's good. Why would you ask me a silly question like that?
Well, I'm glad it's good, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm also glad that you reminded us that sometimes good and bad are just a matter of how we look at things.
Glad to help. Say, I'm thirsty. Could I get a drink of water before I go?
Oh, thirsty? Well, that's bad.
Nope, that's good.
It is?
Yeah, because you got a glass of water right here.
Oh, my goodness, I sure do. Would you like a drink?
Sure would, okay.
Is that better?
That's good.
Thank you, Goofy. We'll see you next time.
It is the time in our service for some moments of meditation. Please find a comfortable, receptive posture. Take some deep breaths. We will begin with these two thoughts, followed by the space to contemplate them. From Francis Picaba, our heads are round so that thoughts can change direction. And from singer Roger Miller, some people walk in the rain, others just get wet.
For my reading today, I'm going to read the last couple paragraphs of my book, Evolution's Way. I think I probably shared this before, but I think it's fitting for this morning. For some people, the rapid changes we're in seem terrifying, while others are enthusiastic about what they consider is the most transformative period in human existence. Some caution is warranted and will help us advance with fewer regrets, so long as we don't let our biological propensity toward fear prevent us from advancing at all. Not that fear can really halt this force of nature. Like Old Man River, it just keeps on rolling along. Whether we're going with the flow or are terrified by the rapids we encounter, ultimately makes no difference. The times they are a-changin', to cite another song, with or without our permission. Yet if we are at one with this force, if we are at peace with evolution's way, we can foresee where it's taking us and use the adaptive abilities it empowers us with to help shape the future we want. It doesn't have to become a dystopian future many of us dread. Nor is it going to be everything others hope for. Once realized, our utopian dreams are never the perfect worlds we imagined. They still have many challenges, but they are still better worlds than most ever believed possible. For the past 13.7 billion years, the known universe has been moving down a path toward exponentially higher states of complexity, consciousness, and unity. This long path has become clear in hindsight and now appears much shorter as we turn toward tomorrow and see it passing right before our astonished eyes. It astonishes us because it is our impending destiny, a destiny based upon the economics of human welfare and growth, a destiny without poverty, hunger, or discrimination, a destiny without the three kinds of suffering even the Buddha learned to live with: old age, disease, and death. A destiny in which we all live in peace as one community on a healthy planet, even as others are at home on other planets or inside floating space cities. A destiny in which each of us awakens every day to determine what we will do to make the world, nay, the whole universe, a better place. That's the path we are on. That's our trajectory. That's evolution's way.
I had a lot of fun this week looking up the songs that I wanted to do for this service. I've always liked the songs, even as a little kid from the 30s and 40s and 50s. I grew up in the 50s. And this one that we're going to do really came from the Depression era. It's on the sunny side of the street. Some of you may know it. I hope a lot of you know it. And I want you to sing along with me. This song has one of those intros that kind of tells a little story, and then it has the chorus. And I'm going to sing that and the chorus, and then I'm going to sing the chorus a second time, and please come along with me at home. I think this is a really neat song. The lyrics will be on the screen when it's time for you to sing. Walked with no one and talked with no one, and I had nothing but shadows. Then one morning you passed, and I brightened at last. Now I greet the day and complete the day with the sun in my heart. All my worries blew away when you taught me how to say, grab your coat and get your hat, leave your worries on the doorstep, just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can you hear the pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. Here we go. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can you hear that pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I never have a cent, I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street.
Thank you, Deb and Michelina. We appreciate you having so much fun helping us have fun.
Good.
I've been working on a video project in my spare time about NASA's Ranger program in the early 1960s. Its mission was to send rockets crashing into the moon while taking as many pictures as possible before the rockets were destroyed. That sounds easy today, if not rather a sloppy way of going about it. But back then it was nearly impossible. It had to happen before we could ever risk a manned mission. I'd never heard of this incredible piece of space history before until one of our church members, Don Willingham, told me about it. Don was one of Jet Propulsion Lab's lead engineers on the project, actually the guy who figured out how to take the pictures. And it's such an amazing story, so little known, that I want to make sure to preserve it and that it's told. So I interviewed Don in front of a green screen a few months ago, and I've been slowly working on this short documentary ever since. While doing so this past week, I accidentally hit a setting in my editor that opened up an RGB waveform monitor. I'd not paid much attention to this particular display before, but this time I was captivated by the red, blue, green zigzags of light moving in perfect sync with the image of Don in another display talking about Ranger. It was two ways of seeing the same image, the same person, both of which seemed to be speaking. In one window was the image of Don that our human perceptions would normally see when looking at a person, but in the other was a jagged human silhouette outlined by three animated colors within a sea of darkness. And I didn't have to ask myself which image was showing me which one Don really looks like, because I knew that both of them were true. Both images were true, although both were also limited in the amount of information that they could translate. Each filtered the truth differently. One image was generated by filtering a short frequency of light extracted from a larger spectrum of light through the human naked eye, while the other was generated by filtering information from Don's electromagnetic field, something our eyes and brains don't normally do. Imagine how different the world would look to us if our species had evolved to see the world by interpreting the electromagnetic fields of objects instead of light. Or if we could envision the world as bats do, generated by echolocation, sound instead of light. The point is that there are many ways of perceiving the world, of perceiving reality, all of which are partially true. Ours is one way of seeing it, but ours is not the only way of seeing it, nor is it necessarily the best way of seeing it, nor a wholly adequate way of seeing it. Knowing this, we can continue to develop methods and technologies to help us transcend our human perceptual limitations, to get a bigger picture of reality. Microscopes, telescopes, night vision binoculars, thermal imagery, sonar, electrocardiograms, CAT scans, X-rays, stud finders, metal detectors, LiDAR, particle colliders, and waveform monitors are just a few of the prosthetic devices we have developed to get a different and more complete picture of reality. It's important to understand this when talking about mindset, in order to distinguish it from what we simply mean by attitude. While it's important to have a positive attitude in life, attitude is only one way of helping us better cope with our perceptions of the world. That is, with the images and impressions of the world as interpreted by our brains. In other words, unlike attitude, mindset is physical. We might better call it brain set, because it is neurological. As human beings, we are born with a native mindset already in place that largely predetermines how we will view our world. It is a human perspective. So we wouldn't normally grow up to see the world as a bat does, by using echolocation, nor be able to visualize magnetism, because that's not how our visual cortex and occipital lobes work. We have a human mindset, a mind that is set to perceive the world in a specific way, according to our human specialities. Having a hardwired mindset built into our neurology should be appreciated for all that it does, since it has evolved to help us best survive, while also acknowledging its limitations. If we could not imagine a reality beyond what we can perceive, we would never have learned to take pictures of the moon, or discovered that we live in a heliocentric solar system, or discovered penicillin, or powered our lives with electricity, or have begun to solve our environmental problems with wind turbines and solar panels. So much of what we know about reality and so much of what we enjoy about the good life is based on discoveries unseen by the naked eye and imperceptible to us through our bare senses. In other words, as much as we appreciate and rely upon our ways of seeing the world, there are times that we must overcome our native mindset, sometimes for our own good and sometimes for the advancement of our entire species. You may be familiar with the story of Daniel Kish, a man who lost his eyesight as an infant, but learned, quite on his own, to use echolocation to see the world. As a child, he even learned to ride a bicycle around the neighborhood with the other kids. There's a BBC story about him in which he demonstrates his ability to see without eyes by making clicking sounds, having them bounce back to him, and then describes the objects in his environment in some detail. In this example, he was taken to a place that he'd never been before, correctly pointed out where the houses in the neighborhood were, then walked up to a structure and without touching it, rightly described it as a piece of playground equipment. I can tell it's playground equipment because it's got slanting surfaces, click, 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 and it's got open surfaces, and it's probably a slide. He was correct. Then went on to describe the nearby shrubs, and then pointed to the only tree in the playground which stood some distance from where he was positioned. Kish's ability to visualize the world without the use of eyes is astonishing and proves that it is possible to overcome the physical limitations of our human neurology by rewiring it. It's an incredible example of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, in this case by bypassing the need for eyes altogether in the process of seeing. Kish has learned to see without eyes. Here's another example. Imagine if you were suddenly thrown into an environment in which your sense of up and down, above, below, right and left, east, west, north, and south became imperceptible and meaningless, and you felt as if you were floating rather than grounded and connected to a firm surface. You might think you were drunk or that you've gone mad. But such disorientation is precisely what astronauts experience the first time in the International Space Station's weightless environment, away from the planetary poles and gravitational pull of the ground that gives us our sense of direction and the ability to distinguish what's up from what's down. The newbies are astonished to observe how easily their more experienced crewmates navigate about such an environment, even as the veterans assure them that they too will quickly adapt. And they do. In almost no time at all, the new crew members float and spin and shift their positions from top to bottom, relative as they are, navigating through a relatively cramped environment crowded with delicate wires and sensitive equipment, with the ease and the grace of a species born for such maneuvering. It doesn't take long before they have overcome their native mindset by rewiring their neurology. Having to rewire the brain to cope with blindness and weightless environments are extreme examples, but all of us have this amazing ability, this lifelong neuroplasticity to rewire our brains to help us see the world in new ways, like Daniel Kish, or to gain a more expansive view of it, like the ISS astronauts. Such should be the goal of changing our own mindsets, to transcend the limits of our native perceptions. Again, as human beings, our species has evolved to perceive the world in ways that has helped us survive, or at least once helped our species survive. But there is much more to the world, to reality, and to truth than meets the eyes, or ears, or senses of taste, and smell, and touch. To continue becoming more than we are, and to adapt to new and greater realities and modern challenges, it is necessary to see beyond the limits of a brain that evolved hundreds of thousands of years ago to help us survive the perils of hunting and gathering. We have moved far beyond that lifestyle, and our mindsets have had to adapt and evolve with us, even if our biology remains the same. Today, the exponential advancement of technology is causing things to change faster than we can keep up with. Certainly faster than we can physically adapt to. It takes ages for our biology to evolve, yet only a few months for many of our technologies. Our technologies, for example, have made our lives much easier and more convenient. Instead of spending most of our time traveling short distances on foot every day, we need to spend only short amounts of time traveling long distances in cars or airplanes. Instead of spending our spare time writing a few letters to only our closest friends and family because that's all we have time for, we can quickly and easily write an email or send a text message to anyone. Instead of laboring to write checks, stuff envelopes, and get them to the post office before it closes, we can tie all our bills to our bank accounts and have our computers automatically take care of that for us. Yet our bodies, which have evolved to walk and remain active throughout the day, which is essential to cardiovascular health, have not adapted to the sedentary life of sitting in a car or at a desk working on our devices. We must now force ourselves to exercise if we want to remain somewhat healthy these days, because our bodies cannot adapt quickly enough to living a sedentary lifestyle of technological advances that technological advances have recently fashioned for us. If we suddenly found it necessary for our survival to have 6 fingers to better grapple with our environment, or a larger heart to help us have more stamina, or a greater sense of smell to detect pollutants in the air, or some other dramatic physical adaptation, our species would perish, because it would be impossible for us to evolve that fast. This is so with the exception of one organ, the human brain. Like Daniel Kish, whose neurology rewired to allow him to see in a completely new way. Or astronauts who quickly adapt to living in a weightless environment where their sense of direction becomes meaningless, our native mindset can quickly change its neurocircuitry whenever necessary. Think about how astonishing this is. Despite our otherwise slow advance in biology, we have a powerful piece of organic hardware in our heads that can almost immediately transform our mindsets to help us quickly adapt to radically different circumstances and environments. It's extraordinary. Yet each of us is also born with our ancient brain and its neurology intact. We are born, that is, with an ancient mindset that we have have to learn to change in order to adapt to our modern reality. Among the most formidable ancient mindsets, as you often hear me talk about, is the mindset of fear. We are neurologically wired to always be on the lookout for danger. We don't like surprises, and we try to protect ourselves from ever being surprised. Our amygdala, which regulates the fight and flight response, is wired to our hippocampus, which regulates our emotions. So when the amygdala is active, especially when it is overactive, it can cause us to be unduly fearful of the world, remaining in an unhealthy state of hypervigilance against any potential danger. This is especially so when it comes to trying new things. We have a neophobic brain, which makes us overly cautious and conservative, often prohibiting us from taking advantage of our neuroplasticity by preventing us from adapting, advancing, and opening our minds to greater truths, larger realities, and to wonder and mystery. If we lived as our ancestors did, always working unnecessarily to sense some hidden danger or predator in the jungles and savannas, it manifests as hypertension or paranoia or a propensity to embrace conspiracy theories or to catastrophize the smallest of problems. As modern people, each of us must work during our individual lives to rewire the brain that has evolved to keep us safe by making us inherently afraid of change and progress. Certainty is another part of the native mindset. As you have often heard me say, the more certain we are, the better we feel. And this is because the feeling of certainty, and that's all it is an emotion, is rewarded by a release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that signals our nerves to feel pleasure. Certainty feels good as a reward for doing what our native brain wants, namely repetitive behavior and repetitive thinking. Our brains can't tell us which patterns or beliefs or behavior are best for us, so it bets on the statistics. If it programs us to simply repeat ourselves, the repetitive behaviors that don't get us killed will be naturally selected over time, better assuring our survival long enough to pass along our genetic information to new hosts, which is all that evolution cares about, survival of the information we carry, not the carrier. So just as our brain set makes us feel good and safe for being certain of our tried and true habits and fearful of new ways and ideas, it also makes us inherently conservative about change, new things, and progress. As good as it might feel, however, it is a hindrance to our growth and maturation as individuals and as a species. The father of developmental psychology, Jean Piaget, once said that every individual instinctively, unconsciously serves its species, serves life. Yet he also said there is a mindset that gets in the way of our development and the natural altruism of our species. It is the conservative spirit which is guilty, he says, which has arrested progress, forbidden work for world peace, maintained armies, destroyed faith and the dignity of man. Without the conservative spirit, the people would not have remained in misery. They would not have been faced with an obstinate bourgeoisie, ignorant of its duties. It is the conservative spirit which is guilty because without it, woman would be equal to man, and never would the horrors of this century have withstood her. The conservative spirit killed the idea. It is the cause of war. So these three mindsets, fear, certainty, and conservatism, are native to our species, meaning that we are born with them because they are inherent in our neurology. Although they remain useful at times, We can no longer let them dominate us, dominate our thinking. Dominant mindsets shape our perceptions of the world, and when we are dominated by fear, certainty, and conservatism, we perceive a frightening, small, unyielding reality. When Jesus said, "Seek, and ye shall find," I doubt he was talking about our mindsets. Yet we usually do find only what we are looking for. If we are overly fearful, then we perceive a dangerous world full of enemies. If we are overly certain, then we are only able to confirm our own biases. If we are overly conservative, then we are blind to the advantages of new ideas and new ways of doing things, and we, like an overly fearful, certain, and conservative society, become set in our ways, even if those ways are destroying us, unable to see that our habits are the real danger. Everything that does not fit into our mindset, or that requires us to change our repetitive behaviors and old beliefs, is either invisible to us or dismissed as a hoax. Global warming is a hoax. COVID-19 is fake news. The election was rigged. So let's ignore them all because they contradict our perceptions of the world, our paranoid perceptions of the world. Yet we can also actively and easily work to rewire our native mindsets to adapt to the greater reality around us. Instead of running away with our fears, we can simply remind ourselves that our fears and our worries are usually exaggerated, if not unfounded, because that's our native instinct. We can also rewire our brains to feel more optimistic about the world by not depending strictly on negative, reptilian, brain-driven news media for information, or the repetitive kinds of information that AI-driven algorithms predict will most grab our attention. Seek and find sources of information that are intentionally positive, like Future Loop, an online magazine that begins by saying, "Your mindset is the most important thing you have." Future Loop is a counterbalance to the algorithmically driven content feeds negatively shaping our biological neural nets. Expose yourself to the world's beauty, to sunsets and sunrises, to a walk in nature, or to human art, or to upbeat and calming music. Hang out with people and become part of organizations that are optimistic. Adapt your environment with reminders like posters and placards and sayings about all the good in the world and about keeping a positive mindset. The settings that we place ourselves in can have a tremendous impact on our mindsets. So make your surroundings uplifting. Seek the positive and ye shall find it. Instead of paying attention to ludicrous conspiracy theories based on randomly connected, unconnected dots, read books that provide factual information about all the good things happening, like Matt Ridley's The Rational Optimist, or Peter Diamandis' Abundance, The World is Better Than You Think, or Hans Rosling's Factfulness. In the latter, Rosling says, "Factfulness, like a healthy diet and regular exercise, can and should become part of your daily life. Start to practice it, and you will be able to replace your overdramatic worldview with a worldview based on facts. You will make better decisions, stay alert to real dangers and possibilities, and avoid being constantly stressed about the wrong things." Above all, train yourself to trust in human goodness. That's a hard one, because we have been theologically and culturally conditioned for thousands of years to disparage and mistrust human nature and to denigrate human dignity. But when we realize that, as Piaget said, it is our nature to serve our species and to serve life. Or as Socrates said, no one knowingly does evil. Or that, as Archbishop Oscar Romero said, we have all been born to do good, to love one another, to understand one another. We realize that we are not alone in this world, that we live on a planet full of billions of people, brown and white ones, gay and straight ones, male and female ones, rich and poor ones, Muslim and Christian and Hindus and atheist ones, who are all good-hearted and care for one another. We have been trained to feel cynical about human nature, but when we take an inventory of all the good people in our lives compared to the rotten ones, we find we live in a world of mostly kind and considerate people who are selfless and want to do the right thing. We cannot easily or quickly change our bodies to adapt to any circumstance, but we can compensate for this by readily transforming our mindsets to see the world in a bigger, brighter, and truer way than we can otherwise imagine. This power is a gift and a marvel of our existence that is too often squandered for fear of change. So be not afraid to use it to transform your life and to transform our world. Thank you.
Well, we have a positive hymn today that I really like this one. It does center somewhat on our planet and on nature, but it asks us to look at all the good things we already have so that we can feel expansive and like we belong. The Sun That Shines, number 19.
Shines across the sea, the wind that whispers in the tree, the lark that carols in the sky, the fleecy clouds are sailing by. Oh, I'm as rich can be, for all these things belong to me. Which refresh the earth, the springtime mantle of rebirth, the summer days when all things grow, the autumn mist and winter snow. Oh, I'm as rich can be, for all these things belong to me. The task well done, the fun of play, the ones who guide me on my way, the balm of sleep when each day ends, the joy of family and friends. Oh, I'm as rich can be, for all these things belong to me.
Our benediction is by Howard Zinn. An optimist isn't necessarily a blithe, sappy whistler in the dark. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. If we remember those times and places where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us energy to act and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. Amen, blessed be, salam aleikum, and shalom.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim.
And stick with us to sing the postlude, High Hopes. The lyrics will be on the screen when it's your turn to sing. Here we go. Next time you're found with your chin on the ground, there's a lot to be learned, so look around. Just what made that little old ant thinks he'll move that rubber tree plant? Anyone knows an ant can't move a rubber tree plant, but he's got high hopes. He's got high hopes. He's got high apple pie in the sky. Hope so anytime you're getting low, instead of even go, just remember that ant. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree. Oops, there goes another rubber tree plant. When troubles call and your back's to the wall, there's a lot to be learned. That wall can fall. Once there was a silly old ram, thought he'd punch a hole in the dam. No one could make that ram scram. He kept butting that dam 'cause he had high hopes. He had high hopes. He had high apple pie in the sky. Hope so anytime you're feeling bad, instead of feeling sad, just remember that ram. Oops, there goes a billion kilowatt. Oops, there goes a billion kilowatt. Oops, there goes a billion kilowatt dam. Problem's just a toy balloon. They'll be bursting soon. They're just bound to go pop. Oops, there goes another problem cur. Oops, there goes another problem cur. Oops,